Hello everyone and welcome to Tuesday morning's video. If you're anything like me, you'll have quite enjoyed the past 24 hours or so, longer than that. Actually, it's been a pretty fun time, hasn't it? And I'm not here to end the fun now. We're going to continue that on today's video and have a good old enjoyable time and maybe a wee laugh as well. We're going to be just kind of rounding up some of the chat that's happened since full time on Sunday, going back into the game, going through some of your comments as well, and discussing the post-match whinge, the traditional post-match whinge that our rivals now undertake after every single derby defeat, blaming officials, etc. And I thought we were the paranoid ones. I hope you all enjoyed our post-match reaction. Stevie joined me from the pub where he spends the majority of his life, actually. He was in great form, reflecting on a manic afternoon at Hampden, so you can check that out if you haven't already. As expected, the video has been extremely popular. A lot of people wanting to just find out what we were thinking after such a amazing afternoon at Hampden. So if you have just found the channel in the last few days because of that video, hello, lovely to have you with us. This is Celtic AM. We do daily videos, near daily, maybe 6 a week, all coming out at 7 AM UK time, so first thing in the morning. So lovely to have you with us. A lot of you have been subscribing over the past 24 hours. If you're watching this and haven't yet subscribed, please consider doing so. It really helps us to grow this channel and reach as many Celtic fans as possible. Click the wee like button on the video as well, please. You're all legends. Just another wee note to any Celtic fans who are based in Melbourne. Now, I'm keen to kind of try out some new videos and I want to create a wee pool of channel contributors based here in Melbourne, so I can start maybe making some videos out here with people in the same room. Obviously we have Enda, who's great, but want to possibly look at getting some more people on board. So basically, and this will only apply to a select few of you, but if you are based in Melbourne and fancy coming on the channel regularly to chat about Celtic with me, then please send me an email, celticinthemorning@gmail.com. Did that work? Yeah, thank you very much. Right, where do we start today? Well, you may have seen that some of our players have been enjoying themselves at the World Darts Championship at the Ali Pali in London last night. Yes, Brendan Rodgers has given the squad a couple of days off after the cup win on Sunday. They're back in on Wednesday to obviously build ahead to Dundee United at the weekend, no midweek game. So I think he's seen it as a bit of an opportunity, just especially after winning the cup, just to reset, possibly give the players a bit of time to enjoy it. He did mention family after the game, the manager. I'm not sure these guys were with their family at the darts, but certainly enjoying themselves. Who have we got? Greg Taylor, Stephen Welsh, Arnie Engels there in the background with something on his head. You've got Liam Scales there, and Cameron Carter-Vickers as well. We know he likes a wee dig at our rivals, holding up a kind of mini whiteboard with 119 written on it, which isn't a darts checkout, it's a number of trophies that Celtic have won. Now, I know what you're thinking, no John Beaton or Willie Collum in this photo. They obviously would have been with the guys down in London enjoying and celebrating after Sunday. I am told that they were away getting more drinks when this photo was taken. And that kind of moves us on to our next topic, which is, that mob across the city really struggling to accept defeat. And you'd think they'd be pretty good at it. I mean, they get a hell of a lot of practice, but yet it seems like they still struggle to come to terms with losing to us. Yeah, the excuse book was out again at Rangers, led by their manager Philippe Clement, who has apparently never lost a game to Celtic fair and square. Their main gripe this time seems to be that they should have had a penalty for a foul from Liam Scales on Vaclav Cherny. You'll remember a free kick was given right on the edge of the box, seemingly for a pull of the shirt from Scales on Czerny. I've seen some people saying online it was maybe for the first foul. I guess the location of the free kick, which was more central than that, would suggest it was for the shirt pull. And a still image shows that it may well have been a penalty. I know some of you will think it was a penalty, some of you will think it wasn't. That's fine. I probably come down on the first side. I think it maybe could and should have been a penalty. It wasn't a stone waller or anything though, like they're making out. And Philippe Clement clearly brought it up after the game, as he tends to do. New Rangers CEO Patrick Stewart only started in the role yesterday, and he's already written to the SFA about the incident. Rangers fans also appear to think Nicholas Kuhn fouled Mohamed Diamandi prior to Kuhn scoring our third goal. My favourite complaint, though, is that apparently Kasper Schmeichel should have been sanctioned for standing in the wrong bit when we were taking our penalties during the shootout. All of this, of course, is just a bit of a coping mechanism for our rivals after they lose to Celtic. Take Philippe Clement, who I believe all of this naturally comes from. If you hear your manager bemoaning decisions after virtually every big loss to your rivals, then you're going to kind of hop on that as well. You go back to his first derby, a 2-1 defeat at Celtic Park last December. He claimed Rangers had been the better team because they'd had more shots. He brought up a potential penalty his side should have had for an Alistair Johnston handball. Rangers won his second derby, of course, by 3-3 that day. He still moaned about officiating that day and a penalty handball that was given against Connor Goldson, who famously never handballed the ball in his entire career. May's Scottish Cup final, we won that late on, Adam Maeda, etc. Clement was again blaming the officials after that match for disallowing a Rangers goal from a corner kick. One of their players adjudged to have fouled Joe Hart. Again, this was something the Rangers support ran with after the game. Again, Clement brought up his favourite stat of shots. Seems to love that one. And again, on Sunday, after another defeat in a cup final, it was the officials' fault. Now, Clement and Rangers appear to have a real issue with losing to Celtic's winning mentality. That is the reason why Celtic win these close-fought games, and that's been a real trend in recent years. It's not to do with decisions from the officials. It's to do with Celtic having this winning mentality, Celtic having better players in the big moments in both boxes. And I just find it interesting when they're so keen to look at refereeing decisions, but they don't bring up things like them having a 4v1 and a huge opportunity there. That's not the officials' fault in any way. Yeah, it's not the officials' fault that Rangers have won 3 trophies out of the last 25, while we have 20. Just in general, by the way, and I don't know if you feel the same way here, but the narrative after the weekend that you hear from the other side of the city and parts of the media as well is one that we've seen and heard before. Rangers are closing the gap, Celtic aren't that good. And as I say, we've heard this so many times over the past 8.5 seasons, when we've had these close-fought derby games that we've just come out on the top of. And there's been so many of them, like the League Cup final in 2019. Again, Rangers were closing the gap. And I know they won the following derby that year, but we then went on and absolutely took the league away from them in the second half of the season after the break. For me anyway, there's 2 types of derby at the moment. Number one, Celtic play very well. We completely blow Rangers away, beat them 3-0, 4-0, something like that. We've had plenty of them over the years. We had one earlier this season. Probably the more common derby, though, is Rangers playing well. Maybe us being off our game a little bit, and we still invariably win the vast majority of them. So, yeah, I'm not too worried. Anyway, a couple of bits of news I wanted to bring you just briefly before we go on to some of your comments. I did notice that James Forrest was wearing a moon boot after the game. Now, he got a bit of a kick late on in the match, and I went and watched the final 10 minutes, and I believe it was an incident you may remember when he kind of worked a 1-2. This is late on in extra time. Kind of drove, I think, almost into the Rangers box, infield, maybe went past the player and then was tackled just in time. And I think James Tavernier caught him. So as we know, moon boots look really bad, but they don't necessarily mean that a player's going to be out for weeks. We had Cameron Carter-Vickers maybe at the start of the season, I think after the last derby actually, who was seen wearing one, and he was back like for the next game. So we might be without James Forrest on Sunday at Tannadice. I'm guessing we'll hear more about that later in the week. It says a lot though that he continued and was prepared to take a penalty as well. He would have been our 6th penalty taker had he been required. He wasn't required though, because Dyson Maeda scored this penalty, but in a typical Dyson Maeda way, because I did enjoy him saying after the game that his winning penalty kick was actually a miss kick, and that is the most Dyson Maeda thing possible. A big thanks to Michelle for pointing that out to me on X. Okay, we're going with some of your comments, starting with Goody 2 Views. Great day, a torturous watch at times, but my God, the relief after we won. Really hope Brendan Rodgers and his team analyse this game carefully. We need to learn from this. We can't get away with performances like this indefinitely. Similar note, DVP 36, it's not pretty at present. We are grinding hard, not fluid, but superb heart and will to win. It's been similar for the most part for 5 or 6 weeks. Would love to see another winger and a 10 added, as we are a bit short. If Kuhn picks up a knock, we could struggle at the top end. I definitely think performance levels have dipped a little bit in recent weeks. Probably if you look back, maybe after the Leipzig game, they haven't quite been at the same level. I need to look at the results for sure. There still have been like really good performances. Like Ross County was a great performance, 5-0 at half-time. Everyone came away feeling amazing, and we've still been like winning every game, just maybe not necessarily playing and looking quite as fluid as we were at the start of the season. But I think you've got to remember that we're at this typical point in the season where you do generally see a downturn in performance levels, and I think if you look back through the years, even the very best Celtic teams, like you think back to the Invincible season where we got to December and the performances kind of were poor, and I think even under Postecoglou in that second season there was a similar kind of feeling. So I think it's pretty natural. The really encouraging thing for me is that we're still getting results when we're not playing well. And that includes in the Champions League, where we aren't necessarily winning the games against Bruges and Zagreb, but we're still getting something out of them and important results for where we want to get to. So I think generally things are fine. Celtic will improve, I'm sure, going forward once we get through this period. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's all right. You can maybe make an argument for a couple of changes here and there. I think Alex Valle is someone I would like to see come in and start a bit more and play a bit more generally. I think Luke McCowan coming in is an obvious one. And you look at Sunday, I think Luke McCowan would have made a big difference on Sunday. Probably wouldn't have started the game even if he was eligible. Would certainly have come on. I think he would have been one of our 6 subs that we got. And I can, like, you can imagine Luke McCowan in extra time with against tired legs being a very important player. So I would want him involved. I think he can really kind of freshen things up a bit. We maybe just need freshened up slightly. But again, as I repeat, in the grand scheme of things, we're still winning. We're coming through really tough matches as well over the past month or so and doing really well. And I think just generally in terms of finals, just looking at Sunday, very rarely see Celtic at their best in these finals. And again, you go back to the best teams we've had over the past decade. Think back to a number of the finals against Rangers. Very rarely top performances. Finals against Aberdeen and Rodgers' first spell, rarely top performances. I mean, that League Cup one for our 100th trophy when we won 3-0 against Aberdeen was maybe the exception, but Invincible final wasn't a great Celtic performance. The League Cup final against Aberdeen, I think just prior to Rodgers leaving for Leicester, the one Ryan Christie scored in, not a particularly great performance. Finals are about one thing, genuinely, and it's about winning. And Celtic do that in finals. And I was thinking back here, I'm not sure if this is the stat I'm about to read out is something that's been widely circulated, but I think it's ridiculous. The last time Celtic lost a final in any competition was in March 2012. It was the one when Kilmarnock beat us in the League Cup final. An awful day. That's the last time we lost a final. 15 finals in a row that we've played in, we've won. And when you consider that finals are generally against your nearest challenger, be that Aberdeen or Rangers, or even if it's not against one of them, they're generally just very tough matches, finals. I just think to win 15 finals in a row is like an unbelievable credit to this team and the teams that have gone before, and guys like James Forrest, who have been a part of all of them, and guys like Cal McGregor, who have been a part of the vast majority of them. 15 finals we've won in a row. It's an unbelievable record. Moving on, Matty McIntyre. Rangers' plan was to take Calmac out the equation. They had someone on him all the time because they know he's the backbone of the team. This gave them the advantage and why they played the way they did. Paul McGuinness saying Rangers... He's put the wee star in there. Love that kind of thing, Paul. Rangers played like the small team they've become. They set up just to stop us playing and feed off of the scraps of our mistakes. The fact that they were holding out for penalties at the end said it all. They saw 50-50 as their best chance. We're a much better side and will be improved in the remaining fixtures against them. I will never tire of this. I found the Rangers playing for penalty stuff really interesting because that is just something that we wouldn't do, and I just think like that's it in a nutshell. Celtic go to win, Rangers were playing for the opportunity to win in penalties, and it obviously backfired for them, but that's why I felt we got everything we deserved from that. I really thought in extra time, as much as there weren't many clear-cut opportunities, I thought we were the better team pretty clearly. They were just kind of making it scrappy and kind of feeding off our mistakes, whereas I felt like we were the team that were actually building and moving the ball forward. In terms of the next derby, I think it's going to be interesting. Rangers are clearly going to fancy that at home with all the stadium filled with their fans, no away fans. And they've got this kind of sense of injustice. And whether that's a legitimate sense of injustice, we clearly can have that debate. Whether that's the case or not, they will feel hard done by. And I'm guessing that's going to fuel the atmosphere for that game. They're going to be out to get us. But again, that's been the case in years gone by. Obviously going to be a huge game when it comes. They're always big games. But we won the cup. And regardless of how that next derby goes, we're going to be in a strong position in the league. So I think I'm relatively relaxed about that game. Ask me nearer the time. I'm sure I'll be pretty fired up for it. Right, Matty Mull, no backing from the fans yesterday. Very disappointing from those that managed to get a ticket. Atmospheres at last European and Hampden games have been terrible. Too many expecting to turn up and win. This is something Stevie brought up on yesterday's video, and I'm not sure that's always the case. I think like in previous finals, I remember the League Cup final under Postecoglou, in that second season when we actually did play pretty well in that first half and were 1-0 up. I thought the Celtic fans completely outsang the Rangers support. I thought it was similar in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup a month or so later. I just think a lot of it depends on how the game's going, and Rangers were clearly the team. Even though it was relatively even in that first half, you could just sense in the game that Rangers were the team that were playing a bit better. And a lot of that is because we've got higher standards. And us dropping here might be them raising their game to there, genuinely, because I feel that's how far ahead of them. But obviously that means that their fans feel, right, okay, we're doing well here, whereas our fans feel we're not doing particularly well. And that can influence the atmosphere. I also think the point I made yesterday, like, when we are used to beating them, there is an expectancy that we'll go and do it again, and there's maybe a fear there that, oh God, what happens if we don't win? It's going to be hell because we're not used to it. Whereas they are used to losing to us in recent years, so maybe they, just in a sense, feel they've not got that much to lose, and it's all about gaining, whereas we're afraid of losing. Maybe there's part of that. I guess, and obviously I don't go to games, haven't been going to games this season. Maybe the Champions League games have felt a little bit flat as well. I know some people have said that generally. I commented on that a few weeks ago, and that might be more down to us not playing the elite opponents that really gets everyone going. Again, that could be, you can look at that as being right or wrong. I just think it might be a kind of natural byproduct of this Celtic team being so good that there is generally an expectancy that we'll go and win these games, even against Rangers, even against, teams in the Champions League. That's how good this Celtic team is. And it might just mean that the atmosphere's not quite at the level that it has been in recent years. I still think the Celtic support were great yesterday, certainly after the game when we had "You'll Never Walk Alone" and all of that stuff. We really are an incredible support. And I do think if we face a team like Real Madrid, for example, in the knockout rounds of the Champions League, assuming we get there, I think you'll have an amazing atmosphere at Celtic Park. But I think it's a legitimate point that Matty's making and Stevie made. Okay, a few final comments before I head. Graham Tyrrell, Maeda's goal was absolutely outstanding. I'm honestly leaning towards him being our best Japanese signing. He is so important to our team. On yourself, Dyson. I love him. He's going to have a CSC named after him one day, isn't he? He's going to be remembered just so fondly. Dyson Maeda. AJSC Tech, fully deserved Celtic win. We score our 4v2 with Kuhn and they mess up their 4-1. That's it, and it will break them. I think that's a really good point. We were ruthless and clinical. When our chance came, they were anything but. Donald McLeod, need to talk about Engels. Might sound harsh given his assist and penalty, but he looks absolutely short of confidence. I think every other pass he attempted was misplaced and so weak for their goal. Needs a run of games to get his sharpness back. I thought Engels really struggled with the basics when he came on. Just keeping the ball. It seems like it's a real effort to him at the moment to keep the ball. And he's passing the ball and players are moving away. And I think he's pretty nervous and low in confidence, I would say. But, I think he'll get back to where he needs to be over time. He was poor, really poor, I thought, generally. But the irony was that he set up the third goal with... it was his run initially, wasn't it? I think he ran on and then did he pass it to Kuhn and then got it back? Might be trying to remember it in my head, but certainly he was the one that passed it into Kuhn at the end. Great cutback, the only place he could have put it really for us to score, so that was brilliant. I also think he deserves huge credit for stepping up and taking a penalty, given that he is not massively confident at the moment, and that was a huge pressure kick, without doubt the biggest kick he'll have taken in his career up until this point. And he took the penalty really well. It was a great penalty, so I think he deserves real credit for that, especially when you look at the opposition and their centre forward has left backs and goalkeepers taking penalties before he does. So that's a big difference again in the character in the two squads. So good stuff, Engels. Hopefully he builds on his good moments, because he certainly needs to. And that's us for today, everyone. I'm going to head off. I really appreciate you all watching this video, enjoying this and all of the other Celtic podcasts and YouTube channels and websites and all of that stuff. It's a great time to be a Celtic fan, and we'll return tomorrow to maybe start looking ahead to Dundee United, probably just talking about the same stuff again.